Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. One game here on Thursday as the Dubs and the Minnesota Timberwolves are back in Mini for Game 2. Dubs up 1-0 as we know, but no Steph Curry now for at least a week. So we got to take a look at a number of different angles here of what that's going to do to the starting lineup, what that's going to do to the matchups, and what we can expect from guys and how they play when Steph is off the court. So we're going to take a look at all that. Already went through the record in the other episode from last night. Did really well on Tuesday night there. I'm recording this on Wednesday, obviously. Had a nice plus almost 6 units made on that night. Didn't have as great of a game here. Only had a few bets in the Celtics and Knicks game, but I'm going to be honest, you cannot hurt me right now as the Knicks are up 2-0 on the Celtics, going back to New York, up 2-0. Cannot believe what I just saw. That game just ended. I'm hyped right now. Let's jump into what we've got here for Thursday. Game 2 notes obviously start with Steph being out for a week, and that's going to impact a lot of stuff. So I want to show you guys what happened when Steph left the game in Game 1. We'll take a look at who did really well there for both sides. Then we're going to take a look at how a few of these key players for the Dubs do, and obviously without Steph, I should say. And then obviously we also want to get into what the matchups are going to be now that we're going to have a different guy in the starting lineup for Golden State. But the second thing here is that the Dubs won. After Steph left in the second quarter, they ended up winning the rest of the minutes of that game, 69-68 after he left. And the key here, I think, for the Dubs and what they'll keep doing is that pace is going to stay down. I know that Minnesota plays really slowly, but now that they don't have Steph, they're definitely going to have to rely on that defense a ton, clamp up, and try to get some points off of turnovers from the Minnesota Timberwolves. The starting lineup, I'm going to go over that with you. I think it's Jonathan Kuminga starting for Steph. There's a couple of reasons why I think that makes the most sense, so I'll get into that in a sec. And then without Steph, that could equal more Rudy Gobert. Steph is a big reason that Rudy gets played off the court so much. Obviously, the Dubs play a really sort of style that makes them helps them run big guys off the floor, but Steph is the key to all of that. If you get Steph one-on-one with Rudy, it's a 3 every time. It's a bucket, and so they couldn't afford to have him out there for more than 26 minutes in Game 1, but let's see what that means here for Game 2. Like I said, quickly wanted to run over what happened for each team after Steph was out. You can see here, points are all the way on the right. Buddy, 24 of them, right? Had an incredible second half there without Steph as soon as he went down. Didn't make a shot in the first half, I believe, and then killed it in the second half. Absolute killer. Jimmy, also 7 boards, 7 assists through about 2.5 quarters because Steph was out. 16 points, not a great shooting percentage. They're going to need him to be better on offense if they're going to win this game without Steph from the jump. Draymond there, 10 points, 4 boards, 3 dimes, 2 steals. All that stuff sticks out to you. So I actually wanted to show you too real quick what happens for a couple of the key players for the Dubs when Steph is off court. So all these numbers are Jimmy, Draymond, and Buddy all on the court at once together without Steph. When those 3 guys are on court with different variations of, the filling out the lineup there, per 36 minutes, Jimmy is at 32.5 points per 36, 5.5 boards, 9.5 assists. I do think he's going to be better for more than 5 boards in this game. 5.5 is what he's averaging, but I do think he's going to be relied upon so heavily to guard down low. We'll go over those matchups in a second, that the boards are going to be a little bit more reliable than this. Points, maybe we don't expect 32 or 33, but I think we can get a lot of assists, and I think the points are going to be good for him. Those will be the 2 props that I'm eyeing for Jimmy in this game. Moving on to Draymond, he doesn't have as good of numbers here without Steph on the court over the course of this season. When he's playing with Jimmy, 5.5 points, but we saw him obviously hit a ton of shots in this last one, was killing it in the first half. I wouldn't, outside of that barrage, I wouldn't expect Draymond to get too crazy again with the points, but the rebounds and assists, I think we can expect roughly 7 to 8 of each. That's what he's averaging per 36 without Steph. If this game is not out of hand and it does stay relatively close within double digits and Draymond plays a full slate here, I'll probably be looking at some RA stuff for him. And then, of course, Buddy. What does Buddy do without Steph per 36 minutes? 22 points, 5 made threes that he's making there per 36 minutes, and then 8.5 boards. And Buddy's a guy that when you have Steph, you can give him a shorter leash, right? You don't necessarily have to keep him on the floor as often because of the fact that you've got the best three-point shooter in the history of the game out there. Now you don't, and you need some offense, and you need some threes, and Kerr has shown that without Steph Curry, he trusts Buddy Hield a ton. So starting with the matchups with Golden State on offense, I think this is how they'll start. Pods, Hield, Kuminga, Jimmy, Green. Kuminga, I think, is going to be out there. I have the asterisk because it might be Quentin Post. It could be Gary Payton. I would guess it's maybe Gary Payton if it's not Kuminga. But I do think Jonathan Kuminga gives him the best option as a starter because of the fact that he can guard Ant, right? So if he's out there, this is how we saw these teams match up specifically with Minnesota on defense after Curry left. We saw Conley on pods. McDaniels did take Hield, right? He switched from guarding Steph to guarding Buddy. Randall comes down to Kuminga because they put Ant on Jimmy for a lot of this. And I don't know why they wouldn't go back to it. They played it most of that way most of the time after Steph left in that game. And then Rudy, when he's out there on Draymond, otherwise we're probably going to see Naz, if he comes in for Rudy, he'll be guarding Draymond at that point. Other side of the ball, like I said, you can see I've got pods on Conley again. That was the matchup in the last game. And then Kuminga on Ant. I do think that's why he's going to be out there, is let's see what he does. I think Kerr gives him the first shot at it because they don't really want to give up too much on offense. You can't take Steph out and put GP2 in the starting lineup. You can't go from the best offensive player on your team to quite possibly the least effective offensive player in Gary Payton, right? So I think you bring Kuminga out there because you have a guy that can guard Ant better than Quentin Post for sure, and not as well as GP, but the offense for Kuminga and the size is the other thing that I think they want to have out there. So Hield stays on McDaniels, Jimmy stays on Julius Randle, and then Green on Gobert, as we know, and probably on Naz Reid when he comes in as well. As always, going to be using Props Madness here to go through these player props with you guys for this game. This is the #1 sports betting research tool, best time saver, most impactful way to find the best value here in the sports that these player props specifically for the NBA. If you do want to jump in, use code LYB. That'll get you 25% off your first month. It'll also get you a 7-day free trial, so you can go sort of test it out, see if you like this platform before you dive in for the monthly price. But getting right into this stuff, I really just want to start with the guys I was talking about. Jimmy, what do I like for him? I kind of mentioned it. Although I like the boards for him still, because he's going to be guarding bigs down low, we are at a pretty high number here at 7.5. Things could go wrong in that sense for the boards, but I think the points and the assists are okay. Now, I prefer the assists. If you insist on having the points added to things, go for it. My bet is going to most likely be the assists for Jimmy. And I don't have anything down yet for this one, but most likely I'm looking at his assists, right? And the reason here's the biggest edge that I have for him, like I was showing you a minute ago, when he's played without Steph, he's had a ton of potential assists. So let's do games without Steph and with Draymond Green, right? So that we kind of get all his games where he's on the Dubs playing without Steph. Hasn't been that many, but there's been 3 of them. And you can see these potential assists go way, way up. 22, 14, and then 11 against Miami. They got smacked by 26 in that game. So he only played 29 minutes, but 11 potential assists in 29 minutes. Feeling good like he can get to about 14 in the 40-ish minutes that he should play, as long as this game, once again, isn't a blowout. I shouldn't have to add that caveat for everything. If it's a blowout, all bets are off, essentially. But this should be close enough. I think the Dubs are going to buckle down on defense enough to be able to handle things. So I do like Jimmy to get the dimes more than anything else for him. Got to take Buddy, man. Same concept here with Draymond, without Steph. For Buddy, he's played 8 games here. A few of these games he played 24 minutes, 17, and 26. That's not going to be the case here. I think we have to get him back up to at least 35 or so. He played 40 in this last game. And granted, he was hot. And sometimes with Buddy, you worry that he's not going to get the minutes if he's not sinking threes. However, I would just say they can't afford to not have him on the floor anymore. That's kind of where we're at with Buddy at this point. So you give him the minutes, you give him no Steph, right? Let's give him 30 minutes on the season. What happens when he plays 30 and then he plays with Draymond and no Steph? Only one game. Let's even just give him like 26, right? Really good numbers, 21.5 points. I think he's going to get the green light for the whole game. They don't really have a better option for shots coming out now other than Buddy. So they're going to be looking to get him open as much as possible. I do think he can get off at least enough here to get himself to 15 points. And as far as Draymond goes, like these numbers for Draymond are just way too low in terms of the assists. Like this is at 4.5 assists right now. I got to imagine this gets up to 5.5 before too long. But he's going to have the ball in his hands the second most after Jimmy now, right? Like he was a lot less involved when he plays with Jimmy. And let's put this up with Steph, with Jimmy. What does Draymond do on the dimes? About 5 per game that he's, let's make sure we have all the games that they play together here. About 5.5 per game, right? So it's still good, right, when he's playing with these guys. But when in this last game, after Steph went out, we saw 7 assists in about 2.5 quarters for Draymond on 9 potential assists total in the game. He played 35 minutes, probably looking at getting at least 35, maybe 38 in this one, up to as many as 40 I could see, because they're going to need him for as much as they can have him out there. So with the 35 to 40 minutes that he should be playing, I do like over 4.5 assists for him more than any of the other stuff. I do think Kevon Looney is good for a few minutes in this game. He's not necessarily going to start because they do want him to be out there when Draymond is off the floor, right? You see Kevon Looney kind of be the guy to come in and take Draymond out when he needs a breather. So he played 14 minutes. Draymond played about 35. right? So that shows you that adds up to the 48 or so that they would need to play. So you can tell Kevon's subbing in for the exact minutes that Draymond is off the floor. So that should give him about another 15 or so. If you give him about 15 minutes or so, let's give him like 15 to 17 minutes on the season, it's going to be pretty good, right? If you give him, let's say 15 to 19, you get him above 15 minutes. He's at 13 PR. I think you put these both together and take PR for him, because this is a really good situation where I think Rudy's going to be out there for a bit more. Like I mentioned at the top, we're going to get to him in a second. If Rudy's out there for that much, you do need to go a bit bigger. Like you do need to have some Kevon, Draymond, Jimmy lineups, where I know that's not good for shooting. But again, if you sell out on defense so that you can at least keep the sort of stagnant Minnesota Wolves offense from scoring and get the defensive rebound, most importantly, then you're going to want Kevon out there over a guy like at times, Pods even, or Moody, what have you. Those guys might take a back seat at times to a Kevon Looney. So I think he's good for about 15 to 20 minutes, which means I do like him for over 8.5 points and rebounds combined. Even though I do like Rudy in this game, I'm going back to Naz. I can't lie to y'all. I do like Naz Reid points in this game. I think the boards are still okay if you wanted to put a parlay together of like 15 and 5 or 10 and 5 or anything like that for Naz, or if you just want to go to the points and rebounds, because I still think like at times, if you look at the head-to-head stuff here, at times the rebounds have actually saved him when he didn't have a great offensive game, and the points are low enough that he should be good for around 10 against this team consistently. So I like putting the PR together once again, but I also like to probably play around with it with Naz, because I think he's going to have a pretty good amount of minutes once again. We saw him play 34 in this last game. I think you got to give him a floor of around 28 again, because he's such a good matchup for this team, creates so many problems, and is clearly their best spot-up shooter right now. So I'm going to keep liking Naz Reid in this series. It's going to take a lot for them to start making these props too high for Naz, which might happen if he starts to have games like he did last game. This will start to go up, but still not high enough, so I'm going to keep betting on Naz. And then, like I said, for Rudy Gobert, I don't really want to play like points or rebounds or even points and rebounds. I'm getting almost 2-to-1 odds for him to get a double-double in this game. That's really where I'm going, is like if he does get about 30 minutes or so, which last game he only played 26 in this last one, I think he's good for another 11 rebounds. And I do think that the points will come with that. He had 9 in this last game, and you saw at the end of the game when Steph was out, that's when he started to do a lot better, right? Once Steph left, he came out and they were like, wait, let's just use the guy that's too big for them, and we don't have to worry about him being in trouble on defense because Steph's not out there to put him in a blender and then make a 30-foot step back three. So with no Steph, could equal a bit more Rudy. Still not scared off from the Naz Reid props. Like I said, he's just too good of a shooter, too versatile for them. Doesn't matter if he's out there with Rudy, he's still playable. I think that just Rudy overall will see a few more minutes, 4 to 5 more, and he will be sort of a focal point at times because they know he creates too many problems down low. All right, after tonight's W for the Knicks, I'm sure we're going to get a new code going tomorrow. But for now, we still have code Davion for 50% off. For those of y'all that want to jump into the VIP for that first month, 50% off, use that code. Link is in the description of the video so you can get right to the WAP.com page. Get into the VIP Discord and get all the picks I'm making. I will be back here on Thursday with plenty more action for the upcoming games. So until I see y'all next, happy betting.